then y'all spat. It hits that me, that's facts. I'm still coming for a play. When I hear something, shut up, 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 shut up.
Should you, a Magic the Gathering player, play the One Piece TCG? Well, the too long didn't watch of the video is, yes, it's a really good TCG. In today's video, we're going to answer that question by answering 4 other questions. How is the One Piece TCG played, and is it easy to learn? How is it similar to Magic? How is it different from Magic? And how easy is the game to get into financially? And after we answer all that, hopefully you'll have your answer on whether or not you're interested as a Magic the Gathering player to try out the One Piece trading card game. If I sound a little nasally, I'm getting over a cold. Big deal. Big diff. See, now that's exactly where you're wrong, Lex. I blow snot rockets into handkerchiefs all night. I have cold sweats and nearly shit myself from diarrhea. That's what makes me human. So let's jump into how the One Piece TCG is actually played. In the One Piece TCG, both players' decks are based around their leader card. Think of these as your commander in Magic. These leaders start the game in play and stay in play until the game is over. They have a power and toughness, both represented by the number in the top right corner of the card. On the bottom left of your leader card, you'll find your leader's color identity, and yes, your deck does need to follow suit, just like in Commander, while on the bottom right of the card, you'll find your leader's health. Think of this more like your player health more than your leader itself. You begin the game by taking an amount of cards off the top of your deck equal to your leader's life number and setting them in your life pile face down. You then draw 5 cards as your hand. You can mulligan once for a new hand. At the beginning of each player's turn, you get 2 Don cards, except if you go first, then you get 1. Think of these like lands in Magic the Gathering. You use these Dons by tapping them, just like Magic, to cast powerful character cards to attack your opponent's leaders or tapped character cards, and event cards that can be used at certain points in the game, both defensive and offensively. Also, once a player hits 10 Don, the game's resource, they stop coming into play, so there's a 10 Don cap, which is pretty nice. So this is where it gets really cool. These Don cards, the game's resource, if untapped, can be attached to leaders and characters on our turn to increase their power and toughness. So either a resource or a buff, whichever you need. Now, in order to win in this game, a single character or leader needs to attack the opposing leader, dealing damage equal to or greater than that leader's power, to cause the opponent to draw one of their life cards. In response to this attack, though, opponents can use event cards with the counter icon to buff their leader, or discard from their hand characters with the counter plus 1000 or plus 2000 located on the left side of their character card to buff their leader to not take damage. When all the opponent's life cards are gone, you need to deal 1 more attack with equal or greater power compared to the opponent's leader to win the game. So I hope I explained that okay. Of course, there's going to be keywords and mechanics in the game that you're going to come across to be like, what does that mean? But as a Magic player, you're probably going to be able to guess what most of this means. KO. Yeah, destroy. Rush. Yeah, it can attack when it comes out. Blocker. It can block, and then you'll immediately learn, oh, that means the other characters can't block. I have to play blockers to block. Gotcha. On top of the surface level, very simple explanation you can give someone of this game, the game is really intuitive. It's super easy to learn the gameplay loop once you've played it a couple times. The game's super intuitive, really easy to pick up. We already touched on this a bit, but if you're coming over to One Piece from Commander, the leader mechanic is the exact same thing as the Commander mechanic. That is the basis of your whole deck. The color identity dictates what your deck does. The theme of the commander or leader most of the time dictates what your deck does. The game's resource, also known as Don, works very similarly to mana in Magic the Gathering. It's tapped to pay the cost of cards, making a lot of the basics of this game super easy to pick up if you're a Magic player. The first thing I noticed as a Magic player when I started playing was how nice it was to not only have guaranteed resources at the start of each turn with 2 Don, but a cap of 10 of that resource made it feel super balanced right from the jump. This was much different from Magic, where getting mana fucked and flooded happens almost every game. The next thing I loved was being able to use the resource to buff my leader and character cards. The amount of turn 2s in One Piece for me that is just throwing 4 of my Don onto my leader, bashing the opponent's leader for 9k, it's too fun. You gotta do it. And that's not even overpowered because you just used all of your resource for that turn to deal more damage, which means that you are sacrificing board state for a life card, which, you know, might come to bite you in the ass. I don't know, you're gonna have to play more games to figure it out. The next and biggest thing I noticed after coming into One Piece from Magic was a very unique design space for a card game that I've coined as the silver lining design space, where you take negative game actions from normal card games, whether that be losing life, getting attacked, having things removed, having one of your attacks fail, and then tacking on a positive for you when that happens, so you still enjoy negative game actions happening. When we take damage in this game, we lose a life card, but that life card goes to our hand. Plus, in One Piece, there's a mechanic called trigger, where some cards will have a black bar on the bottom that say trigger. If a card with a trigger would be put into your hand from your life pile when you take damage, you can either draw that card, or if it has a trigger, activate that trigger and send it to the bin, making losing life in the game really exciting, as you could just get a bigger hand, or you could get a powerful trigger effect that really helps at that point in the game. Now compare this to Magic, where you take damage and you're just closer to dying. Another great example of this silver lining design space is the counter mechanic. On the side of some character cards, you will find a counter plus 1000 or counter plus 2000 on the left side of the card. This is used to defend against opponents' attacks both to characters or leaders. We can discard these creatures to give our character or leader the counter buff until the end of battle. You can do this as many times as you want in response to being attacked. So if our huge attack just failed against our opponent, that's probably because they just discarded half their hands. So our attack failing actually feels fine. They were at 7 cards in their hand. Now they're at 3 because they had to discard 4 counters to stop my attack from causing them to lose a life. There's all these checks and balances built into the game that just feel really, really rewarding. Now compare this to Magic, where you top deck a mana dork late into the game and you're like, wow, that's a completely useless pass turn. In this game, you top deck one of your equivalent to a mana dork and it's got a plus 2000 counter on the side of it. You're super excited to see that at any point in the game. Another difference that I dug in this game was the difference between how combat damage and loss of life works in this game compared to Magic the Gathering. In order to send a character to the bin or deal damage to a leader, your character needs to be bigger than or equal to the opposing leader or character. This becomes interesting when you learn that each battle that happens in the One Piece TCG is separate. So if I swing with my 1k chopper at a 5k leader, that leader will heal back up to 5k when I go to swing with my next character. So individual leaders or characters need to be big enough to finish the job. This is super different from Magic, where damage is sticking around. There's tons of cards that give negative toughness to our opponent's creatures. When a creature gets chump blocked in Magic, that damage sticks around until the end of the turn, which is way different than each battle in One Piece being individual, which adds a whole new layer to this game that's much different, scratches a different itch than Magic. I've been really, really into it, actually. One Piece is also way different in terms of removal, which I absolutely love. You have cards like Blackbeard, tap to KO something that costs 3 or less, or cards like Gum Gum Fire Pistol that lets you KO an opponent's character with power 4000 or less. Now, as a Magic player, this confused the hell out of me at first, because I was like, so you're telling me that I just can't remove big stuff in this game? That's weird. Until you realize there are a ton of cards that lower power and toughness, and tons of cards that lower cost in the One Piece TCG. So, you can remove big stuff, but you're going to have to work for it. So the opponent can't just pay 2 Don to destroy one of our huge threats unless they've earned it from lowering the cost or power and KOing it from there. Compare this to Magic, where an opponent can pay 1 mana to exile any creature we control, 2 mana to stop anything from happening in the first place, and play a land to exile the grave to make sure none of it comes back. It's kind of nice to not have that much removal. One Piece games also last 15 to 20 minutes max, which is a big change of pace compared to the 2-hour long Commander games that can go on. It's also a really, really good palate cleanser game, I've found. So after we play a long game of Commander, it's fun to just knock out a few games of One Piece because they're so short, then play another game of Commander. It's nice to just kind of hit the reset button with a, a faster paced game. What I find the most different about One Piece and Magic is I have played probably, I'd say 30 plus games of One Piece over the last month. I have not been able to tell who's going to win a game of One Piece until the turn someone wins the game. I've tried, I'm wrong almost every time. The amount of checks and balances in the game that can just drag you back into the game when you thought, nah, I 100% lose this. Yep, I take 1 health. Yep, I'll take another one. Yep, oh, this is a trigger that puts this blocker directly into play. Now I can block, I don't lose my last health, I can draw. Oh, I drew into a rush card. Play the rush card, take out your thing, play another block, you know what I mean? It's really fun, there's tons of built-in ways for you to come back into the game, so it never feels like you're down and out, compared to a 2-hour long game of Commander, again, where 20 minutes in, yeah, I'm pretty sure that blue player over there that is stopping every single thing from happening and clearly digging for some kind of combo is probably gonna win. 1.5 hours later. Oh my god, they won. Whoa. Okay, but past the similarities and the differences in the game and what I think you'd be into about it, how is this game financially to get into? And I'm happy to inform you, drum roll please, I guess it's not really a drum roll because I just said happily, it's very easy to get into financially. The starter decks in this game, they're really, really powerful. They come with starter deck exclusive cards. A lot of the cards that are in these starter decks are ran in some of the top performing decks in the game. And on top of all this, it also comes with a booster pack that averages $5 MSRP. What do you think it is for one of these precons? Drum roll, please. $12. I don't know how they get away with this. Thumbs up. Keep it up over there, Bandai. Now, I say this all, and you might be like, oh, so the cards aren't really worth opening collecting-wise. No, I pulled a $50 Rayleigh, I pulled a $20 Chopper, and I pulled a $1,200, it's dropped to like $800 Blackbeard, and I haven't opened that much product at all. I've maybe opened 20 booster packs, I've opened 4 of the little art boxes. No booster boxes. And how much is it for the average top performing deck in One Piece? $150 to $200. And there's plenty of $50 lists that are up in the top brackets at tournaments. Compare that to like pretty much any competitive Magic format. That ain't shit for us. Having a low learning curve with surprisingly robust, fun to learn and get better at gameplay, and with it being extremely financially reasonable to get into the game, as a Magic player, I am thoroughly enjoying this game a lot. You would more than likely enjoy the One Piece TCG, and I recommend you guys giving it a chance. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. If there's any other card games you'd like me to try out and make a video similar to this for it, let me know. Huge shout out to all the patrons that you can see flying past over here. The channel and the content and all this wouldn't be possible without you guys. So huge shout out to you guys. If you guys want to become a patron or a channel member, you can check it out with the links down below, or check out the YouTube members tab, both of which start as low as $1. I'm gonna stop yapping your ear off, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.